In this video, I really want to start our discussion of cell division. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with some definitions that are going to help you to understand cell division, and then we're going to work our way through the cell cycle. In subsequent videos, I'll go through mitosis and meiosis. So one of the things we first have to talk about when we're talking about cell division is we have to talk about the genome. Now, what is a genome? Well, the genome is the complete set of genes in an organism. So basically, the whole enchilada that makes you up is called the genome. When we relate this to DNA, the genome is all of the DNA. But we can actually divide DNA into sort of smaller chunks, all right? One of those chunks is going to be chromosomes. Some animals don't have that many chromosomes that make up their DNA, but you have 23 chromosomes. The chromosomes are condensed and packaged DNA. So if we looked at all 23 chromosomes together, that would make up your genome. Now, when we look at genes, genes are a piece of a chromosome. Piece of a chromosome that encodes a specific thing. So here what we're looking at is we're looking at 23 paired chromosomes. This is what your DNA would look like. So here would be a pair of chromosomes. And we'll talk about this later, but you get one chromosome through mom and one chromosome through dad. And on these pairs of chromosomes, you've got these lines here, and each one of these lines would be a gene. So that would be something that encodes something specific. You'll notice as we go down through our 23 pairs of chromosomes, when we get to this area right here, if you have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, you're a boy. If you have two X chromosomes, you are a girl. And that's related to the genes on those chromosomes, and that's sort of what helps create those morphological differences between boys and girls. So one thing I've always found personally very confusing about cell biology and about DNA is that there are a lot of terms that are related, but no one ever really tells you how they're related. So we're going to work through some of these terms. When you look at DNA, you'll remember from earlier in the course, we talked about that DNA forms this double helix. So remember, we have our two strands, and those corresponding base pairs line up, and then that DNA twists. And when it twists, it forms this double helix. Those double helices then get wrapped around proteins called histones. And this helps the DNA to compact. The DNA has to get unwrapped from those histones before it can be replicated. So this is actually a really cool way of controlling gene transcription, because you can't access the DNA while it's wrapped really tight. Once you look at one of these histones, so here would be like one histone. You've got nucleosomes, which are multiple histones that get coiled into what's called a chromatin fiber. Then the chromatin gets coiled, And once that chromatin gets coiled, you end up with the chromosome, which is a much more solid structure. So if you looked at the cell and you looked at its DNA, you'd see this kind of, it would basically, well, you wouldn't be able to see it. And then once it gets compact, it would look kind of like spaghetti. And then when the cell is getting ready to divide, it makes these sort of thick, discrete chromosomes, okay, that look like this. So I'm going to be using all of these terms. I'm going to try to remember to remind you of what these terms mean, but just know that there is a lot of terminology in this section.